Hello and welcome to this Innovation Enterprise webinar in association with VATbox. Today I'm delighted to introduce you to Ravid Barzilai, Global Tax Director of Teva Pharmaceuticals. He'll be starting today's webinar, 3 Top Indirect Tax Issues in Global Companies. The session is being recorded and participants will receive a recording within the next 3 working days. Please feel free to post questions at any time in the chat box provided. You can see it on the right-hand side of your screen. Over to you, Ravid.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. Someone once told me that as opposed to a face-to-face meeting, when we communicate over the phone, we are losing a high percentage of the content. So I promise to do my best and to speak slowly. I will just mention that it is against my nature. We always hope that everything is running according to the policy and guidelines we define, but in reality, we missed a lot. Last year, one of VATbox account manager called me and wanted to notify me huge VAT amount recovered in the structure of the. I told the account that as much the call was not necessary because the system invoiced and alerted me before. The story behind this Teva entity purchased from a German supplier. The machine was but someone in support for the time being. So we instructed the German supplier to send the machine to Teva's local subsidiary in Germany. The German supplier rightfully issued an invoice with 19% German VAT, and Teva had a 300,000 euro VAT amount as an extra cost. As a separate note, I would like to mention that owning a production machine in a different country is far from being ideal, also from direct taxes perspective. We were able to solve this issue on time. But just imagine how many cases like this we had in the past that we weren't aware of. And why couldn't we be aware of? Because Teva has hundreds of legal entities established in different countries. Some of them are also VAT registered in other countries, and most of them are running inbound and outbound activities. Many entities generate many transactions. We simply cannot be everywhere. Many of the VAT challenges are decentralized and managed by the local entities. Therefore, the regional and global teams have lack visibility, which decrease our governance over the local processes. The volume of the unstructured processes is growing. While at the structured processes, we can control and check the transaction, data, evidence before the payment, here the payment comes first, and only afterwards we may have a valid data and evidence aligned with the reality. If you don't have qualified data, you cannot get control, you cannot analyze your data, and you cannot get your VAT back. The data we have aren't always aligned with the reality, and many times it is not completed. In T&E, for instance, people sometimes are not scanned all the invoices. Sometimes when executives use the company credit card, they don't even keep the invoices. And worst of all, sometimes employees submit their invoices more than once. The story about the German machine is a good example of the lack of governance that tax people can have in multinational companies. Employees that submit their T&E invoices twice are a major compliance issue. I hope that everybody on this call agrees that it is better not to recover VAT from T&E at all, rather than having a compliance breach. There are too many people to talk to. It is almost impossible to reach everybody. If we go back to the example of the German machine, the guy from supply chain that made the decision to leave the machine in Germany made the right decision from his perspective. how can we get to all the relevant people and educate them to contact the tax department in any transaction they are involved in? So what were the reasons and the triggers to replace the manual process? Generally, centralization and automation are important and one of the top targets for any global company, I assume. After VATBox approached us, I reviewed the existing process and it was very clear that it was not automated, it was not controlled, and there is a big opportunity if VATBox pitch is real. So I decided to go for a POC, proof of concept, to check 3 different points. 1, does it work? 2, how easy it is? And 3, the opportunity size, lost VAT, governance, risk. We realized that we were experiencing financial loss and our hidden VAT was significant in regards to travel expenses. Our small amounted invoices with foreign VAT were going unclaimed. Our domestic VAT was being done ad hoc rather than in a centralization process across all entities. Invoices were being disqualified based on missing evidences. Account payable invoices, such as marketing and conferences and foreign suppliers, were going unclaimed as well. The VAT that was paid in conventions and marketing events was completely hidden and lost for many years. The reason was that the third party that organized this convention or the event on our behalf, he paid the VAT and the invoices were under his name. We had invoices from foreign suppliers that we did not catch on time, unlike the German machine I referred to in the beginning. We found improperly charges, invoices that were charged wrongly. Another major issue was realizing how much time local entities are spending and how limited the results are. That led us to realize that it cannot and should not be done locally. I'm responsible, I should control and have visibility, but it used to be a black hole for me and I could only hope we are doing good. I wanted to make sure it is easy and I don't have to spend much time and effort. Centralization and automation are 2 elements that I strive to implement everywhere I can. I wanted to see if I can obtain them in the VAT recovering world as well. Right from the beginning, data integrity was flagged as a key to success. You need a good system that will gather the available data from the company's internal sources without having major IT projects. You need a system that will gather the available data from external sources. If you remember the executive that use the corporate credit card and do not keep the invoices, when we get the invoices from the hotel directly, it will not be matter anymore. We need a system that can make data cleansing and validation. We want the system to apply VAT rules and best practices. If we have all that, we will get an optimal starting point for VAT recovery, an optimal visibility and governance, and last but not least, a risk control. After the successful POC, we decided to scale it across the group. In the beginning, we identified 5 entities with the biggest VAT recovering activity, and we wanted them to be the first to implement the automated solution. We defined the scope, which was foreign VAT, T&D, and domestic VAT. After that, we defined the timeline. We choose our focal point in the countries, usually the local tax managers, and we started to sell them the idea. We wanted them to change the way they used to work, which was not easy. As you probably know, people are usually not big fans of changes. Nevertheless, when we told them about our success story in Israel, the change was easier for them to swallow. After phase 1 was successfully completed, we continued to step 2, where we selected additional domains and entities, and afterwards, in step 3, we continued to a full rollout. To conclude, these are my 5 cents. It is a good idea to determine your focal point in each region or entity early on. Expect some will push back, convince them with your or others' success stories. Define your specific timeline for the process and try to schedule a status meeting once a quarter to ensure the process is going smoothly. Thank you very much for listening. I will now turn the presentation over to Isaac Zaft, CEO of VATBox, for some of his thoughts. Over to you, Isaac.
Thank you, Ravid, and thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ravid, for sharing us your story, your experience. It's always nice to listen and to hear it from the client point of view. In the next couple of minutes, I would try to give you a few examples and emphasize why data integrity is so challenging. Also, why it's going to be at least challenging as it is today, and maybe even more challenging in the next future. And maybe finally, to show you why when it comes to VAT, or maybe VAT is one of excellent examples where technology can make a big difference. So maybe let's jump to challenging here. So from the startup travel expense report, I will get limited data without the VAT amount and without other attributes I need to avoid duplications, for example, or at the same time, I don't have enough information to assume I have an invoice from a German hotel, so I can assume if it's Germany and hotel, it's 7% because I can have more than one line with different rates in one invoice. And in some cases, I will have invoice with line with VAT and without VAT. So basically, the level of data that I have doesn't say enough about the VAT amount, or at the same time, the scan evidence that I have, many times I have multi images in one page, sometimes pages without any real evidence, just proof of payment or something like this. So basically, if I don't know exactly how much VAT is every transaction, and where do I have an evidence, qualified evidence, and not, and where are the mistakes people did in the report submission, I don't have the data that I need. Or at the same time, if I'll go to look at other cases out of the travel expense, for example, conventions. So the baseline is that when I'm arranging a convention for internal needs or external needs, and people coming from different locations, I will use third-party supplier that he will arrange everything. In many cases, he will book the hotel, will pay for the audience, for the transportation, for many other things. He's paying on behalf of me, on my name. But apparently what will happen, that he will pay, he will get the invoice on his name, and I will pay him back to back. Theoretically, I could get the VAT back. It's not part of the expense, if it's in my country or out of the country. But because this is the way, this is a broken process, it's not a structured process, so he will pay the VAT, and I will lose the VAT because I will not have not the data and not the evidence. For me, there's hidden VAT at the supplier side. And there's other cases, just maybe the last one, account payable. We all know that documenting in the system is key. When I'm getting a foreign supplier invoice, and I don't have all the tax code deployed in my system, I can decide to break down the VAT and the net amount. But that means I have to do it manually because I don't have tax codes for every country out of the country I'm establishing. But I have to understand what are the eligibilities, because otherwise I will lose twice. I will lose twice because the VAT will not be a cost. I will not be able to consider it as a cost, and if it's not eligible to recover, I will not be able to get my money back. So many times, companies decide to document only the total to avoid that double losing in these cases. But even if I'm aware about eligibility because it's foreign VAT, and I don't have in place a good enough process to get my money back, and I'm afraid again I will break it and I will not reclaim it, I will lose twice. So you can find in many cases what they do, they document only the total. So again, you don't have the visibility, you don't have the data integrity, you're leaving money on the table. So why I'm saying the future is probably not going to be easier or simpler in that specific case. Sorry for jumping here. The reason for that is, look at the future. Unstructured transactions volume is growing. It's growing, and you can also see today, even today, the travel expense budget is considered as to be the second largest budget in the company, right after the payroll, the salaries. So there's a lot of transactions streaming to this expense environment, which is more easier, user-friendly. More and more countries are joining to the VAT system, means there's more VAT that is charged here, and there's more opportunity to recover. I mean, look at companies, more and more companies trying to grow by expanding into new territories. I mean, again, it's more global process, so there's more frequent VAT in different cases. So it looks like the future is not going to be easier, and that challenge of being able to understand exactly how much was spent and what is the way to get the money back and take the right decisions is something important for the short term and for the long term as well. We believe, as I said at the beginning, and that specific area is exactly the area where technology can bring a real edge. Technology can read a good machine, can handle with high volume of transactions, millions of papers, run thousands of checks across those data sources, avoid from army of people trying to fight with this challenge of so many transactions and papers, and bring us to the starting point, which is data integrity, and from that point, of course, everything is available. We believe we understand your expectations. We believe we understand what do you need. We believe that companies want to get all their money back. We believe you want to know how much you spent in every location, in every domain, how much is the VAT part, how much theoretically, based on the rules, could be recovered, how much actually was recovered, how much was lost, what are the ways to optimize. We believe, as Ravid mentioned, the governance and visibility is a key. It's part of your responsibility. If I'm a manager, I have responsibility, I need a tool to control everything that's required. We believe you don't want to take a risk. You don't want to damage your credibility. It's finance. Means you need high quality. It's better trusting, again, a structured and automated machine than army of people trying to do the best they can do. We believe you build the best teams, well-trained, well-educated, with the great skills. We believe you want to spend their time and efforts in a better places that copy-paste data and qualified data. And we guess, like always, you want to have a good partner you can trust. So this is what we try to do it here. And maybe just to show you at a high level, what is the way VATBox machine handling first the data integrity challenge and then the recovery part. So basically, as mentioned, we're taking data from every data resource that exists in your company that has something that might be relevant for the VAT recovery, from the VAT data. It would be an expense system, it would be the ERP system sometimes. You have a scanning system, it depends on the case. And again, we assume that data is limited and disqualified, and there's a lot of work to do where the machine is going to handle. And at that phase, there's no IT projects here. There are standard procedures, standard reports coming from expense system, if that Concur, SAP, Oracle, whatever it would be, directly to our system without IT involved at all. There are no IT projects here. At the same time, we have our sources, external sources. We are getting data as well, data and evidence as well. The most simple case is the merchants themselves. We have connections to nice list of hotels where the data is coming to our system in every case. Our clients visit that hotel, for example. We have other databases. But what is important, that once data is coming to our system, we are doing matching and validation process. For example, we know how to capture data from the invoice using OCR, combined with different logic, rules, and checks. We can make sure the machine did a good job. Cross checks between data sources, using rules, finding different indicators that can give us 100% qualification for every line. If there is an invoice behind it, there's no invoice, the data is qualified or not. And once we have the qualified data, we are checking two more things, like if the VAT was charged properly or not, based on the rules, and if it can be recovered or not, if this is a cost or not a cost. And then the answer is positive, it's qualified data, charged properly, it's eligible, it will go all the way for the recovery. If it's domestic VAT, we will provide you automatically the relevant XML reports to embed it in your reports. And if it's foreign VAT, we can reclaim on behalf of you, do the entire process, or we can give you the opportunity to do it, depends on your exist system. Anyhow, you're going to be able to get your money and have full visibility, transparency, and the data. So just maybe to give you a few examples, how does it look, the system. So what you can see here in the system, that basically I can look at the entity level, at the region level, at the group level, in a specific country, and I can understand how much was spent, how much theoretically could be reclaimed and recovered, how much was already submitted, how much was already refunded. If it's domestic, if it's a foreign, it's a VAT registration case, or all of them. I can also see how much is pending to submission, is going to be submitted soon, to have my forecasting, and how much is pending to approval, how much refunded, and so on. At the same time, I have all the options to filter my data on time frame, on entities, on categories, on destination, and so on. At the same time, and here again, you can see different filters for different segmentations. At the same time, I have a call for action environment. If there's report of domestic VAT ready for submission, and you just have to download it and recover and get your money back, deduct the VAT. So you don't have to be worried if there's someone in specific selected entity somewhere, is it doing his job or not? It's not ad hoc. Because if there's 5 entities still waiting to download the file and deduct the domestic VAT, you're going to be able to see it here. They're going to be able to see there's a report waiting for them. They're going to get a notification. It's a system. It's automated. It's controlled. At the same time, I have my reports. Because you have this data integrity, you can see what is the gap between the reimbursement to the actual expense. Well, you submit a report, but the actual data is different. You made reimbursement twice, or there were mistakes. You're going to be able to see if there's a problem in a specific entity, or specific case, or it goes okay, and the percentage makes sense, the difference. You're going to be able to see all the duplicates. All the cases where there's reimbursement without any evidence. And you'll be able to take the decision where you're going to solve it, or where it's not enough. And there's no need from your involvement. And again, this call for action environment is very user-friendly. We don't expect you to work in the system. The system is supposed to work for you. You can click, download, and you're done. Or you have to qualify the evidence, like the machine that Ravid mentioned. It's going to be here. You're going to be able to see it here. And you're going to be able to put a reminder to send someone something, and so on. You can see it on a map, in a map view. You can see it in a table view, in different ways, in different views. So there's many other features and options I would be happy to share with you maybe later on. But I think this is the right time maybe to hear your questions and try to answer at least a few of them. So for now, thank you very much. And Jennifer, I'm back to you to hear what other questions you got.
Thank you, Isaac. We do have some questions that have come in. The first one is someone asking, do you submit the reclaim for us?
So again, it's very flexible. It depends on you. The answer is yes. In many cases, we realize the company wants to reclaim, to do the final step in-house, particularly when it comes to domestic VAT. You know, they used to submit the report. You just need the data, how much is supposed to be deducted. So they will get from the system data, if it's in just an Excel file or it's XML file, depends on the case. But again, we can take it from A to Z, and we can let you take the lead at the submission stage.
Okay, lovely, thank you. There's another question here. We are VAT registered across Europe. Is your solution applicable to us?
Thank you for the question, of course. The first step in the system, once we start with an account, there's an activation process. It starts with a mapping. Mean for every specific selected entity, there would be few criteria, like where it's established and where it's VAT registered, in case this entity is VAT registered somewhere. And of course, we have the solution is covering cases of, as mentioned, of foreign VAT, of domestic VAT, and VAT register, which is basically domestic, also would be part of that. And as an entity, you're going to be able to see the processes that the system is running for you for foreign cases, for domestic cases, and for the VAT numbers where you're VAT registered as an entity.
Okay, thank you. There's a question come up in the chat box here, and it says, so you're not CRA, nor CRC, nor CCH?
Can you please repeat the question?
Sorry, someone's asked whether it means that you're not CRA, nor CRC, nor CCH. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, or if the person who posted that wants to elaborate anymore.
I'm not familiar with those symbols, but if you can elaborate more, I would be happy to try and answer.
All right. We have another question here then, for the meantime. How do you integrate to our systems? Do we need anything?
So the only idea is to avoid any IT projects here. So we said a few things. First, we're going to take the data that you have. Means we don't want you to change anything. Two, for the leading systems such as SAP, Oracle, Concur, Web Expense, Expensify, Expenditure, and many others, we have a predefined interface if it's a cloud-based system, or we have predefined procedures. If you take, for example, a Teva case, where the few system, part of them it's Oracle, so we gave them that procedure number with base requirements. They deployed it, means it's only data extraction from the system. There's nothing, we're not really need to integrate with the system. We just need to get data in a specific format. And we know the format that data is coming from those systems. So basically, it's just running that report and extracting data from the system. And then it goes to our system. It might be monthly based, quarterly based, halfly based, yearly based, depends, of course, on the case. So basically, there's no integration. You're just getting data from those systems.
Okay, lovely. So we've had some clarification on those acronyms from the previous question. So the question stands, is it that you're not a central refund agency, a central refund counter, nor a central clearinghouse?
Hi there, this is actually Jonathan speaking now. I'm a colleague of Isaac Saft. So just in relation to the scope in which VATBox works with clients, thank you now for the explanation and clarification of those abbreviations. VATBox is a VAT partner, and the value that we bring to our clients is both in the context of VAT recovery, but also VAT compliance. So I can certainly confirm that no, we don't operate just solely in terms of what you clarified there with those abbreviations. We are an external VAT partner, but again, as has been described and as has been actually explained with the approach of VATBox, the value that we bring to our clients is not only in respect of VAT recovery, but it's absolutely in respect of VAT recovery and compliance as well.
Lovely, thank you, Jonathan. So another question that's come in here, we'll just take a couple more. What do you mean by a matching and qualification process?
Sure, certainly. So thanks for the question again. In terms of matching and qualification, this starts with the notion again of data integrity. Again, as was described through the presentation, the challenge that organisations have is that the extent of data integrity that organisations can successfully secure in their systems for certain types of transactions, the likes of travel expenditure or some of those foreign transactions, is the very fact that the entire VAT picture is scattered across multiple sources. Now, what we do through the matching and qualification process is, in the first instance, it's the gathering of the data from those multiple sources, which again, as Isaac was just explaining shortly before, there's no requirement or need for anything to be changed differently from the client side. But then in terms of the matching and qualification, it's then, it's actually the application of VATBox's OCR to the invoice and the expense receipts. And then furthermore, it's then the matching and qualification of that data and verifying and matching that with what sits in a client system as such. And effectively what we're doing therefore is taking the partial and scattered data that sits across an organisation's systems in multiple sources to create completely qualified data. And that's the process of matching and qualification, which from a VATBox perspective is done in a fully automated manner.
Lovely, thanks. And we'll just have one last question here. As a financial executive or manager, do I get a report or alert?
Yes, certainly. Again, the real value and the beauty of the VATBox proposition is the fact that it gives a financial executive or a financial manager so much control and visibility. And again, just going back to what Isaac was showing before in terms of some of the more recent updates to the VATBox portal, is the very fact that it's that centralized platform that can firstly be accessed by anybody within the business. It's an incredibly effective vehicle for communication and governance around the organization. And certainly what we do within that system is create alerts and notifications, for example, if it's an invoice qualification above a certain amount, if it's the ability for a finance manager, let's say in a head office location or a shared service location, who wants to see the degree of visibility to which other entities within its remit is also adhering to the new VATBox processes, and indeed in terms of the uploads of reports for actual submission. So the VATBox portal and the VATBox approach underpinned by technology will absolutely ensure that there are those alerts and the enhanced control and visibility.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jonathan, for stepping in then. And thanks also to Isaac and Ravid for delivering such an insightful presentation before that. Also, thanks to everyone who's attended the session live today. As I mentioned earlier, it has been recorded and registrants will receive a recording within the next 3 working days. In addition to this, all of those who have registered will receive a white paper summarising the highlights of today's session. That will be with you in the next week or 2. Thanks for all your questions. If anyone has any outstanding questions, VATBox will be reaching out in the next few days and we'll be very happy to address any queries you have then. That's all we have time for today. Thanks once again to our speakers and we wish you all a very good day.